Can you believe PlayStation has been around for 30 years? To celebrate this incredible milestone, we are recounting our fondest gaming memories from across the last 3 decades in today's episode of the PlayStation Access Podcast. Hello and welcome to the PlayStation Access Podcast, the official podcast of PlayStation UK. I am your host, Rob Pearson, joined today by Rosie Caddick.
Hello.
And David Jackson.
Hello.
Can you believe it's now been over 30 years?
You shut up.
Since the original PlayStation launched in Japan.
No.
Oh, how time flies.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it. That's
I won't believe it.
You know, it's an adult age.
Yeah,
a whole adult lifetime.
It doesn't make it much sense to me because I'm 39 and I just didn't appreciate that the PlayStation came out when I was 9.
You had 9 years without PlayStation.
Yeah. Only 9. That's so interesting. Only 9 years of my life without That's like almost only a quarter of my life without PlayStation. How weird.
Oh, when you put it like that, yeah, that is weird.
But then Rosie, no life without PlayStation.
Rosie's only had she's had 100% of life.
Yeah, I've only ever
Rosie was born into a world where PlayStation already existed.
I was born in it.
I literally made that joke. I was like, I was born in it. I literally made that joke.
You merely bought a PlayStation.
Rose Bryant. I haven't had a life without PlayStation.
No, you haven't.
No, born in 1996, March. So that's, well, I should have said March 1996. So I was bang on in there in the early life cycle of PS1.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it would be fun to just recount some fond memories, and they can be about anything really, anything PlayStation related. Maybe the first time you unwrapped a particular console under the Christmas tree on Christmas morning, or your first platinum trophy, or like a particularly difficult boss you struggled with, or whatever it is, just your standout PlayStation memories across 30 years or 29 years in Rosie's case. And we will go alternately, and by the end we'll have each shared hopefully some lovely memories and had a nice chat.
A nice warming feel.
Just described a podcast.
Which is what
we're
this
going to talk like humans, and we'll learn things about each other along the way.
Let's commence the podcasting then with Dave. I'll come to you first.
Okay.
Because you're at that end of the sofa.
Always me. I need to swap seats.
I just like doing it this way. It just feels natural.
I need to swap seats. Yeah. I mean, it's incredibly difficult to boil down my 30 years with PlayStation to just 3 memories. And also, as we always say, you know, it's very bound up with me with my job and my career and lots of happy things to say. But I will start right at the beginning, which it must have been, I guess, 1995. My best friend got a PlayStation. Well, actually, his oldest brother.
It's always the way.
Always the way.
Yeah.
He's a family of 3 brothers. And his oldest brother got a PlayStation. And I always, looked up to his oldest brother massively. His oldest brother was probably, I think he was 18 when we were 10. So he was 8 years older than us. He was like, a man. I mean, It seems ridiculous to say it now.
Literally, I was thinking, in terms of life cycle, that is when you're a kid, you're like, my God, you're an adult.
He's like a proper adult.
Yeah.
He could vote. And he was so cool. I thought he had cool clothes and friends, and he didn't care about anything. And I remember another thing is he had a Coke can hi-fi. It was it was about 3 foot tall, and it was a Coke can, and you could open a door, and behind was like a tape deck and a CD player.
Wow.
He was the coolest guy. And then living up to his cool name and lifestyle.
He'll be like 47 now.
Yeah. I'm still friends with him.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, very much.
Does he still have the
Is he
Coke
still
hi-fi?
really cool?
He's not at all cool. I don't know what I was thinking. So silly. But he was the first guy I knew. And this is early on when the PlayStation released in the UK. He got a PlayStation. And obviously I was desperate to go and see it and play it. And I remember my best friend inviting me round to his house, and it was just like the hub of, it was like quite new. It was like in its first week of being in the house, and it was just like the hub of the lounge, you know. It was the center of activity, apart from the parents who just didn't care. His mum and dad were off in the kitchen, whatever, but the kids, these three, because so my best friend and his two eldest brothers and their friends and me, and we were all in the living room just like obsessed with the PlayStation. And they had Tekken, they bought Tekken. And I just remember being absolutely blown away by Tekken, just watching it. And being a friend and not even of the brother whose console it was, I was very low down the list, the pecking order of when I got to play.
The youngest brother's friend.
yeah, exactly. So I sat very patiently. But as an only child, I'm very used to, I don't know if that makes sense actually, but I have a lot of memories of just being in shops watching other people play consoles that I wanted to play. So I was more than happy just to sit and be in its presence, and also hanging out with the older kids and just being like, my God, maybe I'll become friends with these old kids. And eventually, I think maybe his name was also Dave, the oldest brother. Maybe Dave was just staying on as player one and other people were coming in and out, but eventually the controller did come to me. And my first ever hold of a PlayStation controller, my first ever go of a game, and it was Tekken, and I remember I was king. I don't remember who he was, and I beat him, and then he took the controller away.
And you never played
gave
again.
it to someone else.
So does that mean that you have been playing Tekken since before Rosie was even born?
Way before. Rosie wasn't even an idea at that point. Actually, maybe you were.
When the PS1 came out in the UK, I would have been in my mum's tummy.
Okay, all right. You were an idea. You were a thought. At
I was in the process.
Yeah, but I just remember that I loved that memory. It was so much fun. Not just because I won, just the whole thing, just the excitement of a new console.
What was everyone's reaction to you? Was there like a big reaction, like, "Way, he's lost to his little brother's mate"?
I think there was a bit of that, to be fair. I think there was a bit of that. But also I think, again, Dave is like terrible at games. He's I'm not surprised I beat him. I'm really not surprised.
We should get him on the channel for a guest appearance.
Grudge match.
A Tekken rematch.
His
King.
younger brothers, they were much better, and it would have meant a lot more to beat them in the end. But yeah, I don't think he was up to mustard, really. I did what any young, nimble, sprightly 10-year-old would do and beat him. But I was so thrilled.
Your way to victory.
Did, exactly. Button mash, just like I would today. I'm terrible at beat 'em up games. Absolutely terrible. Don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, I remember distinctly being King. I thought King was such a cool character. Obviously, just thought that it was a cheetah's head, or on a man with a cheetah's head rather than a mask. I didn't realise he was wearing a mask, and I just thought that's amazing. King just became my favourite character.
We all thought that. I was the same with Tekken 2 when he's in his blue shirt. I was like, oh my God, he's the best.
But yeah, very, very happy memories. And then began a summer of going around my best friend's house and playing. Not just a summer. I mean, after that, just a couple of years. It was a couple of years before I got my PlayStation. So loads of happy memories of playing various games at his house. One last memory I'll quickly mention, just because it's about them, is when I went round for his birthday, my best friend's birthday once, and he'd been playing Resident Evil. They were really good at Resident Evil, and they knew A, I was scared, and B, I wouldn't know what I was doing, and they thought it was really funny to set me up to play the last boss. My first encounter with Resident Evil was to fight the last boss armed only with a knife. And I remember really distinctly him going into the save room and just going, "I'll just get it ready for you," and just watching everything coming out of the inventory. He's putting everything into storage. "Just get it ready for you," and they were just giggling as they gave me the controller.
Wow, it's like a villain origin story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why is Dave so afraid of horror games?
Yeah, exactly.
Because of this.
Maybe because of that.
Wow.
You've literally just reminded me of the first time I saw Resident Evil, and was when I was way too young, and it was the very beginning, and it was when you see the zombie head like turn around.
That is such an iconic moment.
It's an iconic moment, and that's the reason why I was terrified of Resident Evil for many, 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 many years. Like, I thought it was the scariest thing in the world. I didn't even want to take the box off the shelf because I was that scared for it. So your story just brought back another memory in my mind. I was
glad.
I remember that.
I can so vividly picture that moment, that first time you opened the door and it just looks over his shoulder. Oh,
it's when he's like eating.
So horrible.
Oh, horrible.
And great.
I love that. I love memories of going around to your friend's house.
Yeah.
And playing PlayStation.
Super special time.
It's, I can smell my friend Darren's house.
Really?
Like his parents both smoked, so his house smelt a lot of cigarettes. And when I came home, my clothes then smelled of cigarettes. Right. But I associate that smell with just
games and good times.
I love it. I love it. Rosie, coming to you next. Would you care to share with us one of your fondest PlayStation memories, please?
Again, we're all going to say this was really hard to recall, like 30 years of PlayStation and stuff in like just in a podcast. But mine, I'm going to do this story first because it's actually quite similar to yours. And I would like to talk about the time where I got the EyeToy on PS2 for the first time, because literally our stories are very similar. But we had in our little village, there was one family who just got the EyeToy, and I remember we went round to my friend's house in the village, and we booted it up. And I remember specifically, there's a mini game, I believe it's in EyeToy Play 2, but there's an octopus in the middle, and you have to press the bubbles in order to make it spit either green or pink bubbles, and you have to get them in the right group. And I remember doing this in his house, and I thought, this is the most advanced technology in the world. Like, I am in the game. I am interacting with the game. And I remember being in their living room, and for even the smallest detail of, they didn't have the the living room lights on because it was daytime, and so the natural light came in through the windows. But I remember just doing that mini game and thinking, oh my God, this is the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
And so I remember then going home and telling my mum all about it. And of course, my mum knew nothing about it at all and all that jazz. But I was just so excited. And, it was a real treat if you were gifted something back then. Well, even today is always a real treat. But I remember then, after talking about it so much, my mum and my nan went to an Asda. There was, a drive away, but it's always where they went for their food shopping. So they just went to an Asda and, thought nothing of it. They've just gone food shopping. Boring. But when...
I feel like there's some foreshadow. Hang on a minute. Is there a twist in this tale yet?
But then when they came back, I remember just the little rectangular box, and they came back with an EyeToy, and my brother and I were so excited. I literally remember where we used to live. The front door was... I say there, but the front door is essentially front door, little walkway, and then the stairs to go upstairs were immediately there. So literally when my mum and my nan walked in, we literally met them in the midway point. Like the midway point of a house when the stairs are like straight in front of you, and then the left is the living room, the right is the kitchen.
The corridor, if you will.
Yeah. Well, if you put it just so plainly like that.
What do we call that area?
Like the cross section of the corridor. Yeah. So literally we saw it, so excited. We were like, oh my God, thank you, screaming. Just grabbed the box and charged upstairs immediately to set it up. And that was when, because I don't know what my friend did in order to make it without having the overhead light coming on and having it be so responsive. They just had very good natural lighting, but we fully set it up, had to play around with the overhead light in order to make sure that, because the thing with the EyeToy, it interacts with, it uses light a lot in order to pick up what the camera and what you're interacting with. So I remember we kept on moving so we put it in my brother's bedroom, and we were moving the overhead light, trying to be where's the best position for it to go for the lighting. And I literally remember just playing it all day. And especially with EyeToy, it's a very physically active device, to do everything in it. They tell you to run on the spot, and there was you have to do some jumps and things like that. And I think that's when my mum realised what she actually bought, and it was so obviously my brother's our bedrooms were upstairs, and it was the absolutely massive noise machine, because when you're jumping and you're landing on the floor, it's just from downstairs. But so that's when I think my mum realised what she actually bought. But we just had the best time on it, and I was so excited about it. I remember we just played it consistently for ages. And we had EyeToy Play 2 with it, as well as Sega Superstars. So we had 2 games we could play with. And even with like Sega Superstars, we had like the stupid rule of, because we like the gifts was for both of us, but in Sega Superstars you had, for example, like a Sonic stage, a Night stage, a Crazy Taxi stage, a House of the Dead stage, and my brother and I were like, okay, yours is the Sonic stage, yours is the Night stage, even though it was all in one game. For some reason we were just like, I own that level, you own that level, and I just remember having the absolute best time with both games. So the EyeToy has always been incredibly special to me because I thought it was the most advanced tech in the world. And even today, I still think it's a great piece of kit. I love the EyeToy.
I'm very sad that PlayStation didn't, in the end, call it the absolutely massive noise machine.
Keep it downstairs, don't put it upstairs machine, unless you want the whole house to just rumble with excited jumps. And I just thought it was the best thing ever. And even with EyeToy Play 2, whenever I boot it up, I still remember the lines. Like, there's a football one, and there's the guy, like the coach being like, "Get in goal and help your team win the match." Like, I just remember all of these things. And the policeman, when there's like a secret agent mission, when you have to try and turn off some lights, he just goes, "Do do." Do do, and he's just doing his own little tune, and I played it so much, it's engraved in my memory. And that's like, just that period of the first moments I had with the EyeToy have always been very special to me.
I remember that Windows one. The window washing one.
Yes, that was in EyeToy Play 1.
And there was a Kung Fu one as well. And
yes.
That made me feel like I was like Neo in the Matrix. Where you just had to stand in the middle and some guys attack you and you're just like, and I would stand as still as I could. It'd just be S-rank. Yeah.
The best thing as well was when if you did EyeToy Play 2 on multiplayer, you had the little mascot, and you could do the thing where you took a picture of your face and it turned up on the character. And I remember my brother and I used to just literally get every cuddly toy we had and be like, what does this look like on the mascot? What does our face look like on the mascot? And literally just spending ages swapping all these different toys we had, trying to get them in the frame of the camera. So, great time. Love the EyeToy.
What a lovely memory.
Yeah, lovely fun memory.
Yes. My first memory that I'm going to share is the summer I played Final Fantasy VII for the first time. Flipping heck, oh my God, what a summer. Yeah. It was a summer holiday, and this is like, I guess, a memory bound up in how good summer holidays are when you're a kid. Like, I don't think that is pure freedom. Waking up in the morning on a weekday, like week 1 of the summer holiday, and just knowing, oh yes, just 5.5 more weeks of not having to go anywhere. Just, my God, the complete lack of responsibility or anything. Like, I was about 12 or 13 at this point in time, so old enough to really appreciate it, I think. And still young enough where I wasn't expected to really contribute anything meaningful to anything. It was just, I'll just exist in this house, I'll eat the free food that's here, I'm going to play this game all day, every day, all summer. And I did. And I can remember the sounds of it. Like it was a really good weather, a summer for weather, I remember, but I would just have my sort of like window open a little bit so the breeze came through, but the curtains drawn because I didn't want the sun glare reflecting off my TV. And I had this quite rubbish hand-me-down CRT portable TV that used to be my mum's when she was younger. So the colour on it was really fuzzy. It wasn't great. So I was playing Final Fantasy VII for the first time. Really tinny sound, quite faded colour, but for some reason that didn't impact on the magic of it. And I just remember being just utterly swept away by this game for this whole summer. And my mum would go food shopping, and I don't know why I remember this, but she would always buy a 2-litre bottle of Coke and a big share bag of Skittles.
Oh my God.
So I remember the days where I'd fill up a little pot of Skittles, get a nice cold glass of fresh out the bottle Coke, and have those 2 things next to my TV as I was just playing Final Fantasy VII. Amazing. And then you'd get to points where I was doing the chocobo breeding side mission. And this was before the days where you could just go online and look up the solutions to things. So everything I was discovering in the game was via exploration. And so in the airship, I found the Chocobo Sage, who lives up in the northern continent. And I can't remember how long it is, but the game updates maybe every 2 or 3 hours or so, and he will reveal an extra bit of dialogue that gives you a clue as to how you can proceed the Chocobo breeding minigame. So he starts off by saying, "Oh, you'll need to catch a great Chocobo, and they can be found." Where was it they could be found? Then you have to wait 3 hours to go back to him. "I've remembered where you can get the great chocobos. It's there. And when you've got the great chocobos, what you'll need to feed them is what was it again?" So this just went on all day, and finally, I think we figured out, you've got to catch a great chocobo, feed it a specific type of nut, get it as high a rank in the chocobo races as you can in the gold saucer, breed them together, and then there's a chance you might get a green chocobo or a blue chocobo. And I remember the first time a green chocobo was born, just me and my sister "Oh my God, it's green! It's green! What does this mean?" And I think that night my sister actually brought her duvet into my room and just slept on my floor because we were just up all night.
Yeah.
Seeing where the chocobo breeding story would take us. And it didn't matter because we didn't have to go to school in the morning because there was just nothing. There was just nothing we had to worry about. And luckily, we were quite lucky that my mum was pretty chill. She didn't care. As long as we weren't causing problems, just stay up in your bedroom, take care of yourselves, eat your Skittles and drink your Coke and play your game. But that sense of freedom, it's gone now. You'll never experience that type of freedom as an adult. I don't think that complete absence of any kind of responsibility, any kind of worry.
Maybe retirement.
All you've got, maybe.
I'm so going to do that. When I retire now, I'm going to bring my duvet into the living room.
Have you got any Skittles?
But it isn't the same though, retirement. I think you're right, Rob. It's also the magic because it is going to come to an end. The 6 weeks of holiday, they're so special because they do come to it. It doesn't just stretch out forever. You do have to go back to school at some point, and so it makes it so special when you don't have to go to school. And also because when you're young, time just lasts so much longer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
6 weeks felt like 6 months. It was so long before I saw anyone again or remembered, did homework and stuff. It was just fantastic.
Yeah.
You just can't beat it. So I think even retirement, once you retired, that's it. You don't have
that does stretch forever.
It does, yeah. So it's as long as you can make it last.
Yeah. But wow, it's just a great memory for me. My favourite game of all time, and I just got to experience it with complete freedom and nothing else getting in the way. So yes, summer holidays.
Oh, they were
lovely.
great.
Dave, back to you.
Yeah, and you've triggered one for me actually, which is just my summer holiday, but playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. And I remember
I can literally feel the heat of the sun coming into my bedroom as I played that game.
Exactly. I can remember so distinctly. Again, I had the window open, but the curtains drawn.
Yeah.
And the curtain sort of gently billowing, and the breeze, and occasionally like a car would go past outside or something.
Children's laughter.
Yeah, some distant children laughing, not playing their PlayStations, the idiots. and I just remember. I remember playing the game obviously loads, but also just using the park creator a bunch, just trying to make the biggest ramp in the world and all that kind of stuff, and listening to the soundtrack. And it was a soundtrack that really kind of like changed my taste in music, or added, augmented my taste in music, which was just super exciting and special for me. But that's not the thing I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about my first platinum, which I accept is a little bit unusual because I got it at Eurogamer Expo, at EGX, in front of a crowd of people on a stage. But before I did that bit...
privileged, honestly.
That was a privilege. But before I did that, there was obviously, all the playing of Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a fantastic game. And it was my first platinum because or rather, I hadn't had a platinum previously because I just, I didn't really personally feel the need to. to be fair, my experience of games, the way I play games, is very much like I play through once and then don't tend to go back. Especially if it's a game with like a story or something, only if it's a game with a story, I will go through and I will complete the game. And completing the game to me means seeing the end credits. It didn't mean to me get all the trophies and complete all those kind of challenges. And I was very happy with that, and I still completely defend that approach. I mean, if trophies are important to you, then that's fine, and if they're not, then that's also fine. You do you. But they weren't a big thing for me, and this became a little bit of a kind of in-joke on the channel, I suppose, because everybody else had at least one platinum. I think you had 3, Rob, at the time, maybe 5. You had a couple. What was your first platinum?
Assassin's Creed 2.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one to get. And so, you know, we were invited to go on stage at EGX over the course of the show and just sort of do some PlayStation bits and pieces. And one of the things we thought it would be fun to do would be for me to finally get a platinum trophy. And I guess it wasn't that fun for me because I didn't plan it very well. And suddenly, with like a week to go, realised I actually had quite a lot to do still in the game. I wanted the last trophy to be to finish the game, to beat the final boss. But I needed to do loads of collecting. And the thing is, during the days, I was on the show floor at EGX, you know, we were doing long days and I got it wrong. And then in the evenings, I was playing very, very furiously. And I realised, like, we didn't have a plan for if I didn't get this platinum trophy. Like, well, this was the whole thing. It was like a bit. What are we going to do in that hour if I didn't do it? So I was really stressed, actually, about making sure I collected everything.
I remember you being like behind the big stage. You just had it hooked up, and I remember watching you play and thinking, seeing the stress on your face, I was like, there's nothing I can do to help. Like, I want to help him, but I can't in that tiny room.
It was so silly. Like, I just hadn't planned it very well. It was my first, like we said, platinum. So I was kind of new to I hadn't like figured out a good route or done enough research or whatever. I thought it would be more straightforward perhaps than it was, or more straightforward for me than I found it. But anyway, I managed to get it done and I had that glorious hour and it was great. Just really, really fantastic to finish it on stage and have everybody cheer. And there was like a sort of big life-size platinum trophy that I got presented with, not to keep, but I did get to hold it, and it's on the internet, and I can watch it back if I like. And everyone was very, very nice to me about it, and that's all great. But just having the platinum trophy, what I didn't realize afterwards was, like, it really is meaningful to me. And I really do like, you mentioned, Rob, in a Friday feature recently about trophies, about just going back and looking through trophy lists, and that's something I hadn't really done before until I had this platinum trophy. And they become little, you know, like how a smell triggers a memory, like the smell of cigarettes makes you think of Darren's house. You know, seeing that little platinum icon next to a game title really does make you put you at a particular time in your life. Obviously, EGX is a very particular place for me, but all the platinums I have all conjure a moment in time or a period of time, you know, what I was doing at that time, why I was loving this game in particular. And I think that's like a really special thing to have this list of moments in your life that helps you recall what it felt like to be in that place and time and what you were feeling, and that love, you know, that experience of playing a game for the first time, or being so invested in a game that you want to achieve everything that there is to achieve in that game and get that sort of mark of, I've seen it all, I've done it all. It's a really special thing. So my memory is getting the Horizon Zero Dawn Platinum, I suppose, in particular, but it unlocked this whole new world for me of other memories that I've also got, just getting to look through my trophy list and see those lists of platinums. And also the moments, the areas where the platinums are missing as well. Yes, slightly less fun.
Of which there are many.
There are many. Very, very many.
Rosie, what have you got for us next?
Awesome. So I've got a memory that was actually quite recent, but because I'm trying to do my memories, I'm trying to do like kind of from each generation. So next up, I was thinking, what can I talk about with the PS3? And recently, I do have a memory with the PS3, and I'll tell you what, first of all, do you remember on the PlayStation Access YouTube channel, we did a Tuesday checklist of show and tell, and I brought in the Jungle Book Groove Party, the full-on box version of it. And I told you the story of how my boyfriend travelled 4 hours in the Netherlands to get it for me. Because someone tried to sell it and they just couldn't sell it apart from... And then suddenly he comes up to get it for me. Well, a similar story was... he did it again. But for my birthday, I want to say a couple of years ago now, he wanted to get me the limited edition Yakuza PS3. It's a gorgeous PS3. It's like a beautiful, it's got like the dragons on it with a white background, and it came with a white controller, and it's like a stunning console. And as you may not, audience members may not know, but I'm quite a big fan of the Yakuza series now after I was introduced to it. But at the time, I didn't know that this is what he wanted to get me for my birthday. But bless him, he found one on eBay, and he found one in Cardiff, of all places. Like, brilliant. Oh my God, there's one in Cardiff that someone's selling. However, there was a storm happening at the time when the sellers were ready to sell it. So because of the storm, that meant that all the trains and basically every route you could take to get to Cardiff was closed. There was no way you could have got there. And the scary thing was the people who sold the console, they were moving house, like not the day after, but the day after that. So he was, bless him, he was incredibly stressed, but he was determined to make sure that I got this birthday present because...
So he walked to Cardiff.
He didn't walk to Cardiff, but the day after, where some things were still getting a bit cancelled because of the storm and things were still a bit risky if you went, he took the risk. And I remember, because I knew that he was going for some reason to Cardiff for my birthday present. So, you know, and I felt really harsh because, so he went off and I walked with him.
Get out the door.
Yeah.
Come on.
I better like it.
No, I walked with him to the train station in the morning, like when it was raining and tipping it down. And you know, to see him off and things like that. And and I just remember being absolutely soaked, thinking, oh my God, is he going to be okay in the storm? Because, you know, my worried brain was just like, oh, what if they start cancelling trains? So he spent a total of 6 hours travelling in order to get this console. He finally, when he did get to Cardiff and picked it up, he then had the issue of how am I going to get this console safely home when it's absolutely tipping it down with rain? So bless him, he was like very secretly protecting this console and everything. And essentially then when it was my birthday, then I received this wonderful gift, and I was so happy with it because I wasn't expecting it at all, and also because without knowing it, well, kind of without knowing what the gift was, I could see how much effort he went to get it for me for my birthday. And I just remember receiving it, and I now call it my child. Because my Yakuza PS3 is my child, and I love it very much. And my birthday was then spent after, you know, having conversations with family and friends and stuff like that. My birthday was spent then. We got the duvet, he set it all up, and we just played PS3 games on it like pretty much all day. And it was absolutely wonderful and fantastic. And it was like, you know, reliving the days of when you did get a console and you were like, just played it all day. It was very much that sort of vibe where I got gifted a new console. It was a Yakuza limited edition PS3, and I was like so excited. So literally it was just duvet time, booting up all of these games on it, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. It was a wonderful birthday and a wonderful revisit of old times of getting the excitement of getting a new console. So
was the box wet?
So it didn't
when you
come
unwrapped
in.
It?
So it didn't come in a box.
It was just.
So it was like just the console.
Just the console.
And the controller itself. So luckily he took like a big bag, which he tried to keep as dry as possible. Because he did that, literally, looking back on it, I've had a few PS3s in my life for multiple reasons, and they've pretty much all been gifts. Because the first PS3 I got, my dad bought it for me and my brother. Then the next PS3 I got was when my brother was moving out for the first time, and he needed the PS3 for his work on his YouTube channel. So for Christmas, he got me then the slim PS3. Then my boyfriend got me my first chunky PS3. And then I got gifted the Yakuza PS3, and even recently, Ashley Millman has gifted another PS3 for like the streaming show I do on the side as well. She was just like, thank you for all the help you've done and stuff. So literally I've had like probably 5 PS3s in my life, and they've pretty much all been gifts, which is a very special thing to me.
PS3
so
privilege.
many PS3s.
I know, I love the PS3.
Well, so do I. But
You could make one of those videos. Remember when PS3 first came out and there was that guy who was like, I've got 4 PS3s. Remember that? You only have 2 PS3s, whereas I have 4 PS3s.
I mean, I've got them obviously over the years. I've got them over the years, but yeah, my Yakuza PS3 is my baby. It's my child. I love it very much.
That's very nice. Do you still play it now? Is of all the PS3s you've got, if you're ever going to play a PS3 game, what's the console you...
It's probably the Yakuza.
Your child?
Probably my child, yeah. Probably my child, yes. Yeah, my child, because I love it very much. Either that... Actually, I play the chunky PS3 and my slim PS3 equally, but... if I get the choice, I like to take. It's also on my shelf at the moment.
You got like,
but
which PS3 should I play today? I think the chunky,
not the child.
We'll go with no.
The
child can rest a day.
My child also like lives on my gaming shelf at home, and it's on the top shelf because we've got a Yakuza section now. And like when we put it up there, my boyfriend was like, "Are you all right bringing it down because it's heavy?" So I was like, "Yes, don't worry, I take very good care of my child." So like it feels like you are carrying like this heavy unit off the shelf, and it's very, very delicately put back up there, but yeah, I love it very much.
Don't know where to go with that. The child in the Yakuza section.
The child. Well, my next story is also about the time I got a console for the first time, and I think on reflection it might be the single greatest day of my entire life.
Wow.
My 16th birthday, which was Christmas Day 2002. And it will soon become apparent why this was the greatest day of my life. I had wanted a PS2 for a long time. I was always a little bit behind when I was a child in terms of compared to my friends when I would get the PlayStation. My parents didn't have huge amounts of money growing up, and so they would typically wait for the price to come down a little bit. But they'd saved up for my 16th birthday, and I came down on Christmas morning, and you can always tell immediately, can't you, when you see the box in the wrapping paper. You're like, you do the act like, I wonder what's in here. Oh, PS2, amazing. So I got my PS2, and I was obviously over the moon with that. But then there were 2 other presents that, when combined with the PS2, turned it into the best day ever. One was, and I can remember what the tag said on it. It was like, "Dear Robert, happy birthday. Hopefully this will keep you quiet for a while. Love from Mum." And it was Final Fantasy X.
Oh, wow.
Which at that point I'd been to my friend Darren's house, he also had older brothers, Warren and Craig.
Right.
And they obviously had a PS2 as soon as it came out, and they were there playing Metal Gear Solid 2 and Final Fantasy X way before I was.
Yeah.
And I was just staring longingly at them. But now Final Fantasy X was finally mine. The beautiful, shiny, pristine box. I just sat there reading the blurb on the back probably for like 15 minutes straight. Just, it's all mine. It's all mine. And then another present that I got was the Fellowship of the Ring Extended Edition DVD, which had just released. Because this was 2002, so that had just released in conjunction with the Two Towers being out of the cinema. So the PS2 was also my first DVD player.
Yeah.
So this was the first DVD I ever owned, was the Fellowship of the Ring Extended Edition. And so I raced upstairs, set up the SCART cable. I had like a slightly better portable TV by this stage, not one from the 80s, which my mum had owned. So the colours were nice, and I didn't know what to do first. So I put disc 1 of Fellowship of the Ring in, and it gives you this beautifully elaborate like opening menu. A little sweep of the Shire theme plays as the camera pans over some books on Bilbo's desk. And and it looked so crisp. The crispest picture I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
All 480p.
Yeah. Incredible.
Of DVD goodness. But compared to the VHS copy of The Fellowship of the Ring that I did own, which had, after they had been attacked in the mountain, like a horrible bit of distortion just was across the top of the film.
Yeah.
So I have to watch all of the rest of the film with this horrible bar of rubbish across it.
Yeah.
And now I just got to watch the whole thing in just beautiful crisp DVD vision.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the last Christmas where it was, I mean, it probably wasn't socially acceptable for me to do it then, but I did it anyway, where you just, as a kid, you unwrap your presents and you just leg it upstairs and don't talk to anyone for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Maybe you come downstairs for Christmas dinner, but apart from that, there's no real expectation, is there, for children to make an effort with their relatives. At 16, you're probably pushing it a little bit. Are you going to come and say goodbye to Grandma?
Yeah.
No. But I got away with it, and I think it's probably the last time I was ever afforded that sort of freedom. But my God, as a day, I couldn't. I was like a rabbit in headlights. Like, oh, what do I do now? I'd watch half an hour of The Fellowship of the Ring. I'd pause it, take the disc out, put Final Fantasy X in, play a little bit of Final Fantasy X. Oh my God, PS2 is so amazing. And I had to devote some time to just looking at the PS2 menu screen, which was that amazing swirling pattern of mesmerizing electronic beads, just with that ocean sound lapping over it as well. Oh, what a day.
That sounds
filled with like
amazing day.
Just like roses and Quality Street and all the Christmas chocolates as well.
Just great.
Mince pies, Twiglets.
And again, you've probably got another week and a bit without school.
Yeah. That was a real good week, that.
How far did you get in Final Fantasy X?
I got pretty far.
Yeah, really?
Yes. I think by the time I'd got back to school, I was probably 40 hours or so.
Oh,
into
wow.
the game. I remember getting back, so I got Final Fantasy X. I'm at this bit already, and people being like... That was the first time I recall anyone being less than kind about the fact that I'd played a game lots.
Right.
Someone's like, 40 hours? Isn't that a bit sad? No.
It's great, actually.
It's the happiest I've ever been. Actually, mind your own business. But what a day. Just everything was perfect. The smell of the Christmas tree, the lights, everyone in a good, jolly Christmas mood, the food, the Lord of the Rings. Those 3 Christmases, 2001, 2002, 2003, where there was a new Lord of the Rings movie at the cinema. It's not going to get better than that. No. Just as a society, we have only been on the decline since then. There has been nothing better. But yeah, probably the single best day of my life, getting PS2.
That sounds
Final
absolutely
Fantasy X,
amazing.
and Fellowship of the Ring for Christmas Day. Great.
Yeah.
Dave, we're back to you for your final memory, please.
Yes, and I'm going to have to talk about getting a console as well. And the story of getting it isn't that special, I suppose, except for it was completely unexpected. And it was getting my first PlayStation. And it was for my 11th birthday, I guess. It was 1997. 12th birthday. And... it was also I'm born in September, and it was also like a couple of weeks into secondary school. It was kind of a scary and exciting time, and the reason it was so unexpected was because my parents, especially my mum, they were the kind of parents who, in fact, just my mum really. My dad's. He always has been interested in games, but my mum was not interested in games and also didn't see the value in them. And she was one of those kind of like, you should be outside people. And I remember
being outside's great.
Being outside is great, but you can have both. You can go outside and you can enjoy video games. And
literally both at the same time.
You can do that too sometimes. But I remember I had to I begged and begged and begged my parents for literally a couple of years before they got me a Mega Drive, and that was very exciting. But I was like way behind everybody else, and I thought that was going to be it for me. And so when my 12th birthday came around, as I'd said, I've been enjoying the PlayStation at my friend's house. I thought it just wasn't even in my. I just hadn't even conceived of the idea that they would get me a PlayStation. I hadn't asked for a PlayStation. I hadn't mentioned it because I thought I was just like flogging a dead horse. It was just not a thing whatsoever, and I was much more concerned with starting this new school. And I remember going into their room in the morning to open my presents, like sat on their bed, and they had some presents, and we got to the final present, and there's just a games console just is the perfect size of box as a gift
to excite,
and then the weight of it is always the perfect. It's the perfect mass for a present.
Yeah,
and I remember just being past it, and they had this sort of look in their eye of like, you're really gonna like this, and I just had no idea what it could possibly be. And I just remember tearing off the front of the wrapping and seeing that iconic black box and PlayStation console there, and I just couldn't believe it because it was so out of character for them, and it was just amazing. And I then unfortunately had to go to school. It was a school day, and I just remember the whole day just wishing desperately to get back home, and playing Demo 1 immediately, even though I played it many times at other people's houses. So I was just like, it came with Demo 1, and they got me I'll be honest, not great game called Shockwave Assault, which I had played at my friend's house again. It's very hard, and it's kind of like an arcade shooter, like a spaceship shooter where you're flying over like Egypt and fighting off an alien invasion force. But it didn't matter. I spent hours and hours and hours playing that, and suddenly like this whole new world was unlocked for me. I could talk about PlayStation with my friends with much more kind of like knowledge. I could borrow games. I remember my dad one day, his colleague, her son, he was a bit older than me. I think he was sort of 16 or 17. He'd done something bad. I don't know what he'd done. And she'd confiscated his games and given them to my dad to give to me. And I got, not forever, but I had like a 6-month loan of like 12 games.
Oh my God.
And it was just like, unbelievable. Crash Bandicoot was in there.
Yes.
Wipeout was in there. I remember when I had the best evening ever, where I was just like putting each one in and just playing each game for about 15 minutes and then just being like, another game. Let's try another game. I couldn't believe it. But it was a really, really special memory. A, because it was really special to get a PlayStation. B, because it was really special that my parents kind of changed their tune, I suppose, and did this thing for me, even if they weren't completely convinced by it at the time. And obviously, I think we can all agree that it's come good in the end, because I obviously, for a job now, kind of talk about PlayStation and video games. So it was definitely the right thing to do, Mum and Dad. But yeah, it's very special, that moment. I can remember it so distinctly.
Who knows?
Just a really happy time.
You could be a surgeon now.
I could be a surgeon,
I
know.
hadn't bought you that PlayStation.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think I did enjoy it as much, but
no, this is better.
This is better.
This is better.
I'll just play Surgeon Simulator. So yeah, there's no job I can't do now on my PlayStation. But yeah, very special memory. Thanks, Mum and Dad.
It is right. You are right about the perfectness of the console wrapped up in wrapping paper. Yeah, for sure. Like,
They always save it till last, don't they, as well? It's like you have everything else, it's like, but there's one more.
I remember when I got my PS3, they deliberately hid it from the rest of the presents because it's just so obvious what it is. And I came downstairs on that, this is a separate Christmas now, like half hoping, I really hope there's a PS3 under there. And I didn't see one. I was like, oh. And then at the end, it just comes out from behind the sofa. Oh,
it comes out like it's walking around. Hello, Rob. Looks like you forgot one more thing. The child.
Yeah.
The child is here.
I also really like your point about the first game you play. When I first got my PS1, I got Actua Soccer Club Edition, which is probably the best of the bunch. Independence Day, the game.
Oh, yeah.
Which wasn't so good.
Yeah.
Another game I can't even remember, and Overboard, which actually was pretty good.
Overboard was great, yeah.
But yeah, but for me on that day, it was just, magic. I'll just play anything.
Doesn't matter.
Just anything that it just looks amazing. It's the best graphics I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. New console, Christmas, birthday. Is there anything better? Yeah. Rosie, perhaps you can give us something better. With your final memory.
Well, I've just got to say, you have just made me think back to when I got my pink PSP for Christmas, and it came with Lego Star Wars and Disney Pixar's Cars.
Nice.
That was a great time. But my final memory is, it's a bit cheesy, but on my PlayStation Access bag that I got when I got this job, I've got a patch with Spyro the Dragon on it, which when I go walking out and about, lots of people love to comment on it, and it makes me very happy. But I popped this badge or this patch on my bag because it's a very special memory to me, because it was my first ever time, like, basically being with PlayStation Access in a weird way, because this was an opportunity that came up from before I even joined the team at this point. I was working in retail at the time, and
Robert Dias and Chippenham.
That was when I was training. So that was when. So I got offered the job whilst I was training for assistant manager at Robert Dias and Chippenham, and I remember coming back from, like, the day of training, and that's when I got a message from Nathan just being like, oh, just wondering if you're free for a drink. And I remember being at Chippenham just in my uniform, just like, yeah, I'll come out for a drink. But so this was after that point where I was incredibly overwhelmed and thrilled about the fact that I was offered my job, but before I joined, Holly went to see Spyro Reignited trilogy to actually go into Toys for Bob Studios, and I believe Holly said to, at least this is what Holly told me, but she said to you guys that this would be like the prime moment for me to train on what it's like covering, seeing a game in a studio and what the whole experience is like. So whilst I was still working in retail, I got this message and I was overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, wait, what is happening? And I love Spyro the Dragon as well. So obviously I grew up with Spyro 3. Year of the Dragon was one of the first games I ever played. So I was, already incredibly excited for the Reignited trilogy to come out. And now this opportunity arises. And I remember my mate Liam was my boss at the time, and he was an absolute gem. And even though it was all last minute, because, usually when you're booking time off work, you have to give at least a month's notice, but he was able to literally organize it so that we balanced our shifts so that I could have that time to go with Holly on this trip. And it's very special to me, not only because it was my first sort of trip with PlayStation Access, but also because it was my first and turned out being my only trip with Holly, who was my angel. And and also, like, it was for Spyro. Like, everything just collided into this massive world of, oh my gosh, this is amazing, this is fantastic. And when we were at Toys for Bob, they gave us a little goodie bag of Spyro gifts, because I believe it was near Halloween time, because I remember we got like an orange paper bag, and I think that was because it was like Halloweeny. So we got like a little sort of building figure of Spyro with some bricks. It wasn't Lego, it's like a different brick company. We got that, we got the patch, and we got a Pop Funko, which I've still got on my desk at home, still sealed and everything, and it's got my sticker that says my name on it from when I was like walking around the studio and I had my name sticker. But the patch, I put it immediately on my bag to always just have that I'm just so appreciative of the opportunity and that trip and everything. And it was, the first time that I got to work, I guess, with PlayStation. So that's why it's incredibly special and near and dear to me for many reasons. And that patch just sort of helps. Well, not helps, but it's so special to me, and it's always just going to be there. And ever since, I've always been like, I would love to get more special patches and stuff, and create like just a little collection of patches from games or moments that mean a lot to me. But that Spyro one, I think, will always, even though at the moment it's the only one, I've got like 2 other patches I need to put on it now. But that Spyro one, I think, is always going to have a very special place in my heart. So I love Spyro the Dragon, and it's great walking around with it as well. And I hear people just being like, Spyro the Dragon, like literally just walking around anywhere. I've had it at a train station, but they go, oh, look at Spyro the Dragon.
Why is that such a surprise? I can't believe it. Spyro the Dragon.
People love Spyro the Dragon, and every time, I'm trying like not to pretend like I haven't heard it, but I'm always just like, yeah, it is Spyro the Dragon. Just talk about Spyro the Dragon with me. So yeah, very very special memory in my heart from years of PlayStation as well.
Yeah, that's a
lovely story, Rosie.
It's a nice story. And it is a nice patch.
It is I love that patch very much.
Nice bag as well.
Yes, great bag.
Great bag, yeah. It's lasted me
and the
years.
bag with the patch.
Still my bag now.
What a combo. Yeah, that bag doesn't let up.
No.
Nope.
Right, I got to round this off then with my final memory, and it is also a work-related one, but it's when we got to attend the launch night of PS4, which is the first time I can remember. Well, the first time I ever experienced like a launch event and got to experience the hype and the excitement of a new console launching, not just as an observer from my house longingly wishing for one under my Christmas tree, but there in person. Like, we were on Oxford Street, I think it was Game in Oxford Street, counting down to midnight. There was like a queue of people all along the street, and as part of our job we had to go along and speak to some of the people, ask them, what games are you going to play first on the PS4? Everyone was just in such a good mood. Everyone was so excited, like lights everywhere. It was amazing to be a part of. Because usually for me, being excited about a console or being excited about a game is a solitary thing. Like, I'll just be excited on my own in private. Maybe watch some YouTube trailers. That's as social as I get with my excitement for new things, really. But here I was in London. These are the kind of images that I had seen in video games magazines growing up, when, it's the PS2 launch day and you'll see the image of the first person ever to buy a PS2 and they're like lifting it above their head like, yeah, I got a PS2. And just me looking at these pictures like, that's not even real. How it doesn't even feel real, this. Imagine what it must have been like to be there, or to be at an E3 or something like that. So to be at the PS4 launch was incredibly exciting in that respect. And I literally remember being in the room when the first person in the UK bought their PS4 just after midnight, and I was behind like a crowd of excited people either in the queue or journalists trying to get pictures, so I couldn't see the actual person. All I saw was some hands in the air with that blue box which said PS4, and just everyone cheering, and it just being just an unbelievably happy day. Added to this, there was the hilarious situation where, as part of what we were doing on PlayStation Access on that day, I had to dress up as Octodad. So I got to put on the Octodad costume.
I love that so much.
Costume.
It's amazing.
It's a great costume as well.
And I arrived at the launch event in the Octodad costume, sitting in the open boot or trunk for our American listeners of a car that was being driven by Ryu from Street Fighter.
So strange. He's
driving, I think, a taxi very slowly along Oxford Street. I was sitting in the boot was open, and because I couldn't physically fit in the back of the car with the Octodad costume on, so just like flailing about in the back of this thing. Everyone cheering like, yeah, Octodad, Octodad, Octodad. Then I walked down the queue and people wanted pictures with Octodad, and I was doing little dances and like high-fiving people and saying, hey, yeah, Octodad, yeah. It was great. That lasted about half an hour. Then I went inside and had to take off the costume, and it was someone else's turn to wear the costume and be Octodad for a little bit. And I had to do the actual, okay, now you have to go outside and interview a few people and ask them what games they're excited about. So I went back outside, and it was amazing seeing people who 5 minutes earlier had been incredibly happy to see me. Like, oh my God, yeah. And it's the same faces who'd lit up with joy upon seeing me. And now they're just like... it's me, Octodad. We've just had a dance together.
They were flailing the arms.
And then having to speak to them as, you know, the person,
as Rob,
just the person, just a human being. But that was fun. Like a thing that, you know, I was very privileged to have done, and not many people will get to experience, and unless you are, and I take my hat off to you, because I don't think I could ever do it. One of the people determined enough and to stand in a queue at midnight, and many people had been there since, you know, much earlier in the day, trying to get their spot in the queue to be among the first people in the UK to get a PS4. You know, because they always launch these consoles in like November when it's cold. So these people were there in their coats. Some people had obviously done it before and had brought like camping chairs along with them, and they would just fold them up when it was time to move forward in the queue. The queue stops. Get the chair out, sit back there. They got their thermos flask, you know, they've got everything they need. But it was just so exciting to be a part of the launch event of PS4.
That was a good queue, to be fair.
It was a great
There was
queue.
lots of entertainment.
There was
Octodad, obviously, and Ryu in the car, but I remember there was like a spin the wheel game that was going up and down.
Yeah.
You could win all kinds of different
cool.
prizes and things. There were PlayStation cupcakes that were getting handed out, and drinks, and it was a really good atmosphere. Actually, it was really, really good atmosphere. It was a really great night.
It was.
I remember there was a light show. They'd like projected like a countdown on a nearby building and stuff that was going on. It was great.
Yeah,
that was a great day.
It was. What an exciting time as well.
Yeah,
incredibly
exciting.
Yeah,
so exciting. I think that might be my favourite ever console launch. I was just at fever pitch for PS4.
Yeah,
just couldn't wait.
Oh, it was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's so many other memories, and I think both of you talking about your memories have like unlocked other memories that I have.
Oh yeah,
as well.
I'm the exact
so I
same.
could probably sit here talking for ages. But yeah, just unwrapping consoles at Christmas.
Oh, it's the best.
It is the best. Well, there we go. Those are our memories. If you have any of your own memories, I'm sure, of course, you do, please do leave us a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, please leave us a YouTube comment, or just get in contact with us on social media or on the YouTube community tab. We'd love to hear from you with your very own memories from PlayStation over the last 30 years. We're hopefully going to have lots on the YouTube channel as well to recognise and celebrate the fact that it's PlayStation's 30th anniversary, so please do look out for that. Otherwise, we will be back in another 2 weeks with another episode of the PlayStation Access podcast, where we will be revealing the PlayStation Access Game of the Year as voted for by you, our lovely PlayStation Access community. So do not miss that. We'll see you soon.
PlayStation